New York City, Madison Square Garden, September 7th, 2001. The anticipation hung in the air like static electricity, almost tangible enough to touch, definitely powerful enough to raise goosebumps on 20,000 arms simultaneously. This wasn't just another concert, wasn't just another Friday night in the entertainment capital of the world. This was Michael Jackson's 30th anniversary celebration, a tribute to 3 decades of revolutionary music that had transformed not just the industry, but global culture itself. The crowd hummed with nervous energy, camera flashes erupting in constellations across the darkened arena. Hollywood royalty, sports icons, political figures, and music legends occupied the premium seats, their presence testament to Michael's unparalleled cultural significance. But the true power in the room emanated from ordinary fans who had spent small fortunes and traveled impossible distances to witness this historic night. The show itself had already delivered a parade of spectacular moments, collaborations between Michael and other artists that span generations and genres, visual set pieces that pushed the boundaries of live performance, emotional renditions of beloved classics that had the audience alternating between reverent silence and euphoric participation. Yet beneath the polished surface of the celebration flowed an undercurrent of tension known only to those closest to the production. For weeks, rumors had circulated about one particular planned collaboration, a summit meeting between two of music's most revolutionary figures, Michael Jackson and Prince. The press had nurtured the narrative of rivalry between these two boundary-pushing artists for decades, positioning them as opposing forces in the musical universe. When Michael had extended the invitation for Prince to join him on stage for this historic celebration, industry insiders had been shocked at Prince's tentative acceptance. And then, with less than an hour before the planned collaboration, the message had arrived from Prince's dressing room. He would not be performing. No explanation, no negociation. Simply a quiet, firm withdrawal delivered by his personal manager with apologetic but unyielding finality. Michael had received the news with outward calm, his expression revealing nothing of his internal response. The show continues, he had said simply, turning back to his pre-performance meditation as if the disruption were a minor technical issue rather than the implosion of what would have been one of the night's defining moments. Now, as the concert progressed toward the time slot originally designated for the collaboration, Michael performed with characteristic precision and emotional intensity, giving no indication that anything had changed, that any plans had been disrupted. The transition came the moment when, in the original plan, Michael would have welcomed Prince to the stage. Instead, the lights dimmed dramatically, the band shifted seamlessly into the introduction of a different song, and Michael moved to center stage alone, a solitary figure in a pool of white light. The song began softly, Michael's voice uncharacteristically raw in the opening phrases, the emotion bleeding through more visibly than his usual perfect control typically allowed. This wasn't a showstopper number with elaborate choreography and visual effects. This was something more intimate, more direct, a song about connection across differences, about finding common ground in a divided world. In the third row, just left of center, sat a 10-year-old boy named Marcus, his small frame nearly vibrating with excitement. For Marcus, this night represented the culmination of impossible dreams, a miracle manifested through the intersection of his unwavering devotion to Michael's music and his mother's equally unwavering devotion to him. When Marcus had been diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia the previous year, his mother had promised him that if he made it through the grueling treatment protocol, she would find a way to take him to see Michael Jackson perform. Against medical predictions, Marcus had responded to the treatment. Against financial probability, his mother had somehow secured these premium tickets. And now, against all odds, Marcus sat watching his idol perform less than 50 feet away. Michael was building toward the chorus when something unexpected happened. A change came over his expression, a subtle shift that those familiar with his performances might recognize as unplanned emotion breaking through. His voice caught slightly on a phrase about bridges between people. For a fleeting moment, he glanced toward the wings of the stage, toward the area where Prince would have been waiting. It was at precisely this moment that Marcus, overcome by the confluence of the music, the moment, and his own journey to be present for it, slipped from his seat before his mother could react. He moved with surprising speed, darting past security personnel, taking advantage of his small size to weave through barriers. By the time security realized what was happening, Marcus had already reached the stage. Michael became aware of the unexpected presence when a ripple of reaction moved through the audience. He turned slightly, his eyes widening in genuine surprise at the sight of the small boy moving toward him. Security personnel were now moving onto the stage as well, but Michael raised his hand in a subtle gesture that stopped them in their tracks. Marcus stood now just a few feet from Michael, suddenly frozen in the realization of what he had done. Michael studied the boy for a moment, then lowered himself to one knee, bringing his face level with Marcus's, and extended the microphone slightly toward the boy. "What's your name?" Michael asked, his voice soft but perfectly audible through the sound system. "Marcus," the boy replied, his voice small but clear. "I'm your biggest fan. I know all your songs." Michael smiled, a genuine expression rarely captured on camera. "All of them?" he asked, gentle teasing in his tone. "That's a lot of songs." Marcus nodded solemnly. "I listen to them every day in hospital. They help me get better." A fleeting shadow crossed Michael's face at the mention of hospitals, a flash of understanding and something deeper. "I'm glad you're better," Michael said simply, "and I'm glad you're here tonight." He started to rise, but Marcus spoke again, the words tumbling out with the unfiltered directness of childhood. "I was really excited to see you sing with Prince," he said. "My mom said it was going to be historic, and we might never see it again, and we should remember every second." The arena seemed to collectively inhale at the innocence of this statement. Michael went very still, his expression impossible to read. After what seemed an eternity but was mere seconds, Michael smiled again at Marcus. "That would have been something, wouldn't it?" he said, neither confirming nor denying the planned collaboration. "Maybe someday." He began again to guide Marcus toward the wings, but the boy spoke once more. "Can I sing with you instead?" he asked, the request so audacious that a ripple of surprised laughter moved through the audience. "I practiced." Michael laughed, a genuine, spontaneous sound rarely heard in public. "You know what, Marcus? I think that's a great idea." He turned toward the audience. "What do you all think? Should Marcus and I sing together?" The audience's response was immediate and overwhelming. Michael nodded, then turned to the band, making a subtle hand gesture that communicated which song to play. Something accessible, something a child might know. The opening notes of one of Michael's most beloved songs about unity and acceptance began to flow through the arena. Michael held the microphone between himself and Marcus, creating a shared space for their unlikely duet. He began the first verse, his voice measured, providing a foundation. When the chorus approached, Michael nodded encouragingly, a silent invitation for Marcus to join in. The boy began tentatively, his small voice nearly inaudible at first. Michael adjusted immediately, kneeling again to bring himself to Marcus's level, gently placing a hand on the boy's shoulder in reassurance, modulating his own powerful voice to create space for the child's contribution. Marcus gained confidence with each note, his voice growing stronger, his initial nervousness transforming into pure joy that radiated visibly from his small frame. The audience watched in collective wonder as this impromptu duet unfolded. The world's greatest pop star and a 10-year-old cancer survivor creating music together on one of the world's most prestigious stages. As the song built toward its final chorus, a figure emerged from the shadows stage right, a presence so distinctive that a ripple of recognition immediately moved through the audience. Prince stood at the edge of the stage, watching the unlikely duet with an expression that combined surprise, curiosity, and something less definable. Michael looked up without interrupting the song, his eyes finding Prince at the edge of the stage. Something passed between them in that brief visual exchange, a complexity of emotion and understanding that transcended the simplified narrative of rivalry. Michael gave a slight nod, then returned his attention to Marcus. The final chorus approached. Michael gently squeezed Marcus's shoulder, then did something unexpected. He stopped singing entirely, giving the chorus completely to Marcus. The band recognized the shift immediately, pulling back on instrumentation to ensure his small voice could be clearly heard. Marcus faltered for just a beat, but then found his courage again, carrying the chorus with the pure, unpolished sincerity that only a child's voice can convey. It was at precisely this moment that Prince moved. With characteristic deliberate grace, he stepped fully onto the stage, moving with measured purpose. He reached them as Marcus completed the chorus. Without speaking, Prince extended his hand toward Michael in a clear request for the microphone. The arena held its collective breath. Michael handed over the microphone without hesitation. Prince considered the microphone for a moment, turning it slightly in his hands. "The young man's right," he said simply, looking directly at Marcus. "Some things are historic. Some things shouldn't be missed." He turned slightly toward Michael. "Sometimes it takes the courage of innocence to remind us of what matters." Without further explanation, Prince nodded to the band. The music shifted, blending the song Marcus and Michael had been performing with elements of the number that had originally been planned for the collaboration. Prince began to sing, his voice distinctive and instantly recognizable, adding a new texture to the performance. If this story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more authentic stories about Michael and the moments that defined his extraordinary life. Michael placed a protective hand on Marcus's shoulder, perhaps intending to guide him off stage. But Prince shook his head slightly. He extended the microphone not back to Michael but down to Marcus, creating a three-point circle that included rather than excluded the boy. What followed defied description. Three voices. Michael's technical perfection, Prince's raw emotional power, and Marcus's pure, unfiltered sincerity, blended in ways that should have been discordant, but somehow created harmony beyond what any rehearsed performance might have achieved. The audience witnessed this unprecedented trio with collective wonder, many openly weeping at the unexpected beauty emerging from what had begun as a disruptive moment. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a moment of authentic human connection happening on a grand scale. As the song reached its conclusion, Michael, Prince, and Marcus stood together at center stage, the final notes surrounding them like a blessing. The audience rose as one, their response transcending mere applause to become something like a physical manifestation of collective emotion. Marcus stood between the two icons, his small face illuminated with joy. Michael and Prince exchanged a look over Marcus's head that contained recognition of the moment's significance. Michael gently guided Marcus toward the wings where his mother waited, tears streaming down her face. Before releasing him to her care, Michael knelt once more to the boy's level. "Thank you, Marcus," he said, his voice carrying genuine emotion. "You reminded us of something important tonight." He reached into his jacket and removed something that flashed silver in the stage lights, one of the military-style badges that adorned his costume. With deliberate ceremony, he unpinned it and attached it to Marcus's shirt. "So you'll remember," he said simply, "that you brought together what seemed impossible." Marcus touched the badge with wondering fingers. "Thank you," he whispered. Michael nodded, then stood to guide him the final steps to his mother, who embraced her son with love and pride. As security escorted them back to their seats, the crowd's applause followed them. On stage, Michael turned back to find Prince still standing at center. "Well," Prince said, his voice amplified through the microphone he still held, "that wasn't in the rehearsal." The audience laughed, tension breaking at this acknowledgement of the unplanned nature of what they had witnessed. Michael smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his often guarded face. "The best things never are," he replied. Prince nodded, a gesture of both agreement and something deeper. Without further discussion, he extended the microphone back to Michael, a symbolic returning of the stage. Michael accepted it with a slight bow that managed to be both playful and respectful. Prince returned the gesture, then turned to leave. But Michael's voice stopped him. "Stay," he said, the single word carrying clearly through the microphone. Prince turned, one eyebrow raised in question. Michael smiled again, extending his hand toward the side stage area where instruments had been positioned. "We've come this far," he said. "Let's give them what they came for." For a moment, Prince stood motionless. The audience held its collective breath. And then, with a subtle shift of posture, Prince nodded once, decisive, committed. He walked to the side stage area, where a guitar had been positioned according to the original plan. What followed was exactly what had been planned, yet nothing like what had been rehearsed. Michael and Prince performed the number that had been selected for their collaboration, a song that allowed each to showcase their distinctive strengths while finding common ground. But where the rehearsed version had been technically perfect yet emotionally cautious, this performance vibrated with authentic energy, with the electricity of genuine connection discovered in real time. As the song reached its conclusion, Michael and Prince stood side by side at center stage. The audience's response was seismic. Michael turned to Prince, extending his hand. Prince considered it for a moment, then responded with something unexpected. He pulled Michael into a brief but genuine embrace, a physical acknowledgement of connection that transcended professional courtesy. The audience's reaction intensified at this visual representation of reconciliation, of boundaries crossed, of supposed rivalry transformed. The embrace ended as quickly as it had begun. Prince nodded once more to Michael, then to the audience, before turning and walking toward the wings. Michael remained center stage, his expression thoughtful. He raised the microphone, creating immediate focus. "Music," Michael said simply, "is about bringing people together." Sometimes, he paused, glancing toward the side of the stage where Prince had exited. "It just takes the right messenger to remind us of that." His gaze shifted to the third row, where Marcus sat beside his mother, the silver badge gleaming on his shirt. A spotlight found Marcus, illuminating his surprised face. The audience's applause redirected toward him. Appreciation for this unplanned catalyst, whose courage had transformed refusal into one of the most memorable collaborations in music history. Backstage, after the show, a production assistant approached Michael holding a small purple envelope. "Prince left this for you," she said. Michael opened the envelope and read the message, written in flowing script. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth as he tucked the card into his pocket. Years later, after both artists had passed in a legend, that note would surface, its contents finally revealed. Written in purple ink, it contained just a few lines. It took a child's courage to remind us what matters. Some rivalries exist only in the minds of those who profit from division. The music is what remains when the noise fades. Until next time, it was signed simply with Prince's iconic symbol. For Marcus, the night became the defining story of his young life, retold countless times. The silver badge remained his most treasured possession, carefully preserved first in his childhood bedroom, later in a special display case in his adult home. "The most amazing part," he would say whenever asked about the experience, "wasn't singing with Michael and Prince, though that was incredible. The most amazing part was seeing how something so simple, just a kid asking for what seemed impossible, could change the whole situation. It taught me that sometimes the barriers we think are fixed are actually just waiting for someone innocent enough to walk right through them." Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more authentic stories about Michael and the moments that shaped his extraordinary life and legacy. Your support helps us continue to share these powerful moments in music history. Today, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a small exhibit commemorates that historic night. Behind protective glass, 3 items sit side by side. The silver badge Michael gave to Marcus, one of Michael's sequin gloves, and a purple guitar pick embossed with Prince's symbol. Museum guides report that visitors often linger at this exhibit, moved by the deeply human story it represents. A reminder that sometimes the greatest moments arise not from perfect planning, but from unexpected disruption, not from carefully maintained divisions, but from the courage to cross them, not from complex adult calculations, but from the simple, direct truth that lives in a child's heart.